Hi everyone, and welcome to the first of our The Future is Female webinar series. I'm Jackie Patton, MD of Inkblock Creative, and today I'm joined by Michelle Begy, who's the MD and founder of Ignite Dating. So I wanted to start off our session today before we jump into hearing all about Michelle and her amazing business, which I just know everyone's going to be like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that was a job, and why is that not my job, number one. But I wanted to start off with a bit of a conversation I had today. So somebody said to me, Jackie, I've seen that you're doing this webinar series, and I'm a bit like fed up with all this women in business stuff. And why is it that it's all, it's great we've got International Women's Day, but you're doing this series of events and it's all female founders. Why, surely equality means that we should also have some men in the mix. And I thought that that was a really great thing to think about as we start off this series, because I 100% agree. And every event we run, we make sure we have a real mix of genders and races and sexualities and people from all walks of life sharing their stories. But with it being International Women's Day on the 8th of March, this is our opportunity to put a spotlight on some women that are doing amazing things, and lift them up and hear about them. And we will only ever get to a point where we have equality and equity, and this year's International Women's Day is about embracing equity. We're only ever going to get to that point if we give women and non-binary founders the opportunity to talk about what they do in spaces that are predominantly male. So I met Michelle at a networking event, and I think we were two of very few women in the room. And when Michelle told me her story, I just knew that we had to have more conversations. She's just got such a fascinating business and road to business. So Michelle, without further ado, I'm banging on. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Michelle Begy, and I'm the MD and founder of Ignite Dating Group. We are elite matchmakers helping single professionals find love. When I launched the business in 2020, I had a very clear idea of what I wanted my business to be, what our route to finding clients would be, and basically what we were delivering, what we were promising we would tell people we would do. And yes, we launched on the 28th of January 2020. 10 weeks later, went into a lockdown.
Great.
I'm not going to lie, I did sit in my car. I did have a little cry.
I was in my pants in my front room.
I was fully dressed. And basically, I was thinking, gosh, I've just launched this new business where we need to, in order for us to be successful, we need to meet face to face, because that's how we elect successors. How we're going to navigate this. So first week was incredibly quiet. And I can remember speaking to my business partner investor saying, okay, he said, what's the plan, Begy? I said, right, this is the plan. I said, we're going to increase all of our marketing. We're going to take on PR. And if there's any money to spend, I want it to be spent with me. And we had the most incredible growth through lockdown.
That's amazing, isn't it? And actually, when you've just said that, we've obviously talked about your business before. And I just hadn't twigged that. You can't date someone if you don't hang out with them. What? Yeah. I've also realized that my neighbours upstairs from the office have obviously just decided to start banging something into a wall. So I apologise for that. Never make any noise, and then the minute we go on. So that is such a fascinating point, because I hadn't clocked that, but it's obviously really obvious. So we know that you started Ignite in 2020, but what was the kind of turning point that even led you to think, I'm gonna build something myself?
I've always been very entrepreneurial. This is not my first rodeo. I had a startup before, which I launched in 2003, and then we closed the business in 2013. I'll be really honest with you. The reason we closed it is I fell out of love with it. So I'm a lot more self-aware now, and I know what works and what doesn't work for me. I'm not go to the same place, do the same thing every day, girl. I need everything to be mixed up. So I have 3 days in the office in the Midlands, which is our satellite office. Then I have 2 days in London, which is networking, meeting clients, seeing my matchmakers in London. And I need that mix in order for me to be a good person, to be around, and also to be successful in what we do. So the business I was working for was a matchmaker, working part-time. The reason I chose it at that time was it was really local. When I closed my business, I'd been so focused on building a business and a brand for 10 years I needed a purpose. I needed something to get up and go to work and do. So I have a very, very strong work ethic, but I didn't want a big career. I wanted to be a mum. I want to spend more time with my son. I wanted something that would give me a purpose to go and do, but I could switch off at night and not have it hanging over me. That didn't go quite so well. So because I became events director of one of the UK's biggest offline agencies, I was incredibly passionate about what I did, and I wanted to, although it wasn't my business, I still had the mentality that I wanted to make it more profitable. And I think if you naturally have that in you, it's very hard to switch off. So I made it quite clear to the owners that if the business was ever going to come up for sale, I'd be interested in buying it. They approached me saying they were interested in selling. We sort of danced around the figures a few times, couldn't quite make the numbers work. And I can remember we set a deadline, and the deadline came and went, and nobody said anything about the offer on the table. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do this myself. At the time, I had a friend and a client who was invested in startups. And we talked lots, and I said I was going to buy this business, and he said I'd be interested in buying it with you. And then it all sort of came and went, and then he said, you know what, we can do this ourselves. I was like, yes, we can. So I can remember sort of from September 2019, I couldn't think of a brand. I had a branding agency. We started to structure what the business would look like, thought about colours and branding colours, but we didn't have a name. And I put out on my social media, I need a business name. Can anybody help? It's like, I will pay you £1,000 if you can find me an amazing company name. And we just literally went through millions of names. And then in October 2019, I was shopping in everyone's favourite store, Home Sense.
I love it. We don't have one in Jersey. It's gutting.
Oh no! And I was wandering around, and I was buying stuff for Christmas, like for a Christmas table and whatever. And I love candles. My house is like a church, got candles everywhere. And there's this big display of jars of tall matches, and it had Tinder, Flame, Spark, Ignite. And I just picked up the jar, took a picture, sent it to my business partner, and said, "Ignite, what do you reckon?" And he was like, "Love it." And that's how we are.
I love as well, but just before we came live, we were talking about, we all know the stats around female founders getting investment. And what was the statistic you told me just before we came on?
2p in every pound of UK equity funding went to all female founder businesses. 2p.
It's insane, isn't it? So when we're talking about why do we need to be showcasing female founders, and why do we need to be talking to women that are building things, it's because there's such a disparity still in businesses that are getting backed. But as we talked about that, you told me about your route to investment. Do you want to share that story? Because it made me laugh.
I was really fortunate in that my incredible investor had worked with me. He knew what I was like. He still wasn't put off, and he loved what we did, what I did at the time. And I can remember we were sort of we met, and so I wrote this amazing business plan for buying the previous business that we talked about. And I can remember we met at a famous landmark in London for catch up. I was super nervous, black dress, heels, dress to go, power lipstick. I was like, come on, I've got this amazing business plan. I literally sweated tears over. I've been all night writing it. It was a work of art. Sat down and said, hi, right. I said, here's my business plan. I went, okay, we're not doing that. What we're going to do is this. I was like, okay. So this whole business plan, which I'd put all my life and soul into, I don't think he read, but it's fine. So that was, and it was literally that. And we talked about the models look like. He's not involved in the business on a day-to-day basis, but an incredible mentor, and I'm extremely lucky to have him on my team.
That's amazing, isn't it? So anyone that's looking for investment, there's hope for us all. Just got to get that power lipstick on.
That's all. Down to the red lipstick and heels. That's all it is.
Build that business plan and hope you meet the right person. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because the route to investment can be so different. It can be through someone it can be through somebody that you go through a really drawn out investment process. You just never know where that's going to come from. I'm just while we're chatting away, just a little note to anyone watching. If you've got any questions for Michelle, you've got any questions for me, you've got any thoughts, pop them in the comments. We will see them and we will answer them as we go along. So we've talked a little bit about what you do and that you're a matchmaker, but can you just explain, before we crack on with the rest of it, can you just explain what that actually is?
So we are akin. So if you think about corporate headhunter, so if you wanted a finance director for your business, you would go to an agency, you'd tell them the type of person you're wanting, sort of their caliber, their history, their CV, that sort of thing. Our business model is incredibly close to that. So it starts with a face-to-face meeting. As a business, we're very honest, we're very open, we're very ethical. So if what you're looking for, we can't provide, we won't try to engage our services. So my business is incredibly structured. So I could die tomorrow and you could win my business. So we are very much set up like a corporate business. So the interview process takes about an hour to an hour and a half. We collect obviously personal data. We ask about any health issues, any criminal convictions, and then we ask about what their everyday life looks like. So how they spend their free time. We then ask about characteristics in a partner, so things that are really important to them. And yes, we have to have things like, for example, age, location, distance, that kind of stuff. Height. We don't talk about height.
Isn't it?
So yeah, that's always number one when I speak to ladies normally. And then we also talk about the softer values. So someone who's kind, good sense of humour, if they favour introversion or extroversion, their stage of life. If somebody wants to have children, we're not going to match with somebody who doesn't want to have children, and their values. Our matchmaking service is very much value-based driven. So we're not an offline Bumble where you join us and you're just given a million photos to flick through and you choose the one you like the look of. It's a holistic view. So it's all about stage of life. It's about values. It's about family values. It's about history. It's sort of what their path has been. It's about education, height. Did I mention height? And all those different things. So we make sure we put together a very clear picture what people are looking for. We do decline people working with us if what they're looking for we can't find. And it's not that we can't find it, it's because it's probably not out there.
Yeah.
So, for example,
expectation.
it is. For example, if a guy's 65, we're not going to be able to match him with, say, a 25-year-old. Or if a lady is wanting to date somebody 20 years younger. It's all about social norms. And we can't change social norms, but what we can do is we can facilitate equal peer-to-peer relationships. And that's what we do.
It's so fascinating because as you're talking about it, I'm like, this sounds like the best job ever. You must just I'm quite nosy. I just think I'd find it fascinating to know what everybody's wanting and thinking about. It must be so cool.
We've done quite a few matches this morning. So I'm in the office today with my matching team, and we've done like the most incredible match this morning, and they're both really excited. And literally, I am not exaggerating. When we do a match, we get up and we have a little dance. We go Big 10, we high five and stuff, because it's really, especially when both clients say yes, because you put a lot of work goes into a match, and you speak to them, you speak to them, the matchmakers speak, we go through their interview, we go through their criteria, we go through the softer values, look at the notes from the interview, we go through all of that. And it takes about 3 to 4 hours to facilitate a match. So it's not just a case like they look all right, we'll stick them together.
Shove them together and hope for the best.
He likes tall blondes, so therefore we'll send him a tall blonde. It's not about that. So and it's also background as well. If somebody has, say, for example, left school at 15 and has been very entrepreneurial, they're probably not going to be the greatest match for somebody who has gone through a very formal classical career. So someone who has been to Oxbridge and then gone through a very corporate, they're not always necessarily the best match. There has to be some equality on background as well, so that they can kind of get each other's background as well, and kind of they have that familiarity, because the best relationships are built initially on friendship, but also points of familiarity. So you both then, if you have children, you both have the same points of reference and for raising your children.
And the values, like you said, right? Like every relationship, whether that's a business partner, somebody that you want to marry or have a life with, or, friendships, it's all based on shared values, isn't it? So I love that that's your focus. As you were talking then, I just had a little moment where I thought, I wonder how often you get underestimated as a woman that works in the world of love. And, you know, you're talking about dating and relationships, which is, you know, that's just some fluffy business, isn't it? That she's just knocked up because she needs a hobby. Do you find that that happens?
All the time. I think also as well, I don't think, you know, my personality helps neither. So I'm naturally quite outgoing. So I've had so many people say to me, oh, you just, you know, oh, you're doing really well. I was like, yeah, we're a team of 13, one of the top 4 flying agents in the UK. And they're like, oh, okay then. So I didn't quite expect that, you know, do you have an office? It's like, yes, we do. We have 2 offices, thank you. Oh, okay then. Do you have some clients? Yeah, we have lots of clients. We took
The
3
thing is, if you didn't, that's not the point, is it? The point is that you know, it's your business. You get to run
people.
it how you want to.
So I do get a lot of it. It's really interesting. I think in my last role, when I was there, people's perception is very different to how it is now as MD. So I do get, I think, a lot more respect with it being my business, and I'm quite open with people about my business as well. I think it's important they kind of know our journey and know what we've been through, and you know, and it's kind of the people that we work with. They value what we do,
Yeah.
and they've sought us out, and they've been recommended to us because they want to meet the right person, haven't got time to go on apps, or they don't want to be seen on Bumble by their peer group. You know, I had a guy that I headhunted for one of my clients, and they said, so I'm actually the client, so she, you know, we've had one date, but she's not really for me, and she was the same. They got on really well, just wasn't enough chemistry. And I said, well, look, so if you want to upgrade and work with me, then that's fine. He's like, oh, he said, you know, I don't need to do that, Michelle. You know, I back myself enough. So I was like, okay, that's cool. Anyway, a week later, I got a message from him, and he was like, how much are your fees? So I text back, said, hey, how are you? I said, oh, my fees are this. And it's all right. He said, can I pay you? And I said, well, yes, of course. I'll send you an invoice.
No, I'm not taking your money.
No, take it away. I said, but so I'm not being funny. I said, but I thought you backed yourself. And he suggested, said somebody from work had matched with him on an app for a giggle. And then he walked into work. He was like, morning.
Oh no.
And he just said, I can't go through that. And he's now successfully matched. He's engaged. So.
Oh wow.
It's good.
That's gone well then.
It's gone very well.
We've just had a comment come in from Kevin, who said, underestimated, love that you're asking about this. So Kevin runs an amazing community called Diversity X.
Right.
And the idea behind Diversity X is that they are all about supporting underestimated founders. So if you are a founder watching this and you're thinking, oh, I feel like that could be for me, go and check out Kevin and go and check out Diversity X, because it's an amazing organization. So before we obviously put this webinar together, we talked about what we wanted to talk about, and I've asked all of the founders that are coming to speak to me this month to share the biggest piece of advice that they would give to other founders. And I think that's because I love hearing about what people are doing and how they got there. But whenever I watch stuff like this, I'm like, give me something I can use. And your bit of advice was to stay in your lane. And I thought, oh, I can't wait to hear why she thinks that's the biggest piece of advice. Can you elaborate a little bit on that for me?
It wasn't my most eloquent moment, I'll be honest with you. Sort of when I sent that across to you, that was more sort of me just talking to you casually. I think since I've been on this journey, which I have loved every second, there has been times I've sat on the floor and thought, oh my God. Which every founder has.
Yeah.
And then I sort of get up, go home, have a bath, go to bed, and the next day is a new day. And that's just, you know, part of when we launched the business, it was getting customers. It was having belief that, you know, our business model, we have to lose people all the time. That's what we're here to do. We don't want repeat customers, because that means we failed. So every month having to find new clients to take on our business. So when I structured the business, I sat down, I was like, right, okay, I'm quite a simple girl. I look at things very simplistically, because for me, I find that works best. So it's like, okay, so what we do, we want to take on clients. What space do you want to operate in? Want to operate in this space. Okay. What does my typical client look like? So age, history, background, that kind of stuff. Okay. So how are we going to get them from being here to being in a matched relationship? How are we going to get there? Okay. So we're going to go from a very corporate angle. So we're going to look at like headhunting. Okay, what does that look like? So I was very clear before I launched my business exactly what the offering was. So this is what we do. This is how we get there, and this is how I want to get from A to B. And I was like, I think it'll work. So what we'll give it a go. And you know, and I'm being very flippant. It was so methodical how I put the business together that I knew it'd work. Which I don't sound arrogant when I say that.
It's not arrogant though. You put the work in, so you know.
So I was thinking, this is how I think we should approach it. I've spoken to, obviously I do lots of networking, so obviously I met you, and I've spoken to so many people and say, okay, so what do you do? Well, we can do this, but we can also do this and maybe this. And I think if you're going to pitch to an investor, by the way, I'm Dragon's Den's biggest fan. I watch it religiously. So it's like I actually watch your piece on TikTok. It's brilliant.
Do you? I love it.
And just I'm like, no, you can't say that. And on, people go into, and they never, not always, not everybody does, but don't always have a very clear definition of who they are, what they do. And I think that's what the biggest challenge is. And I think if you're pitching to investors saying, this is what we do, because they want to know effectively what they're buying. If you say, well, we can do this, but we can also do this, and maybe we can do this, and perhaps we could do this, and we can do this. It's like, what actually am I buying?
Yeah.
And that's what I meant when I said, have a very clear idea of what you're doing and stay in your lane. As we went through the first 18 months, we had our biggest growth in lockdown, and the growth has carried on. We have had, from year 2 to year 3, we had a 300% growth.
Wow.
Then from year 3 to year 4, which is last year, we had a 22% growth. And already, from only sort of 2 months in, we have had our 2 best months in the history of the business.
Oh, that's amazing. Well done.
Thank you. So I kind of feel that this year is definitely it's our growth year. So we're kind of growing, and I want to take it from sort of just being here to being here. And we will do. We're investing in people. We have a head office team here of matchmakers. Our matchmakers throughout the UK. We are investing and expanding our team over the next year. So I think it's about having a very clear idea of what you do. One of the biggest things I think one can do as a founder is, okay, how can I make more money? How can I diversify? And I think for me, if you diversify too quickly, it's almost like you dilute what you're doing. So we had, 3 years where we tested the business model. Yes, we changed it. So we made changes in-house to how we do things. We realized that we needed the resources I didn't think necessarily plan for at the start. Like, for example, we have an in-house PR. I always wanted an in-house PR. That was kind of my luxury that I wanted. But also have an in-house copywriter as well, who writes all our profiles. And that's just simple things like, for example, I didn't want there to be an unconscious bias towards someone's style of writing. So we may very much have an in-house style of writing, how we present profiles. And then we have somebody who is trained as a writer to do them. So we know that they're grammatically correct, and because we are dealing with people who are incredibly successful at work, who are highly educated, we have to make sure that our commas and our full stops and all that kind of stuff are in the right place,
in the right spot. Yeah.
So
there's so much good stuff that you've just said that I'm like, oh, I love it. I think what you're saying about getting clear on what you actually offer, that's basically like what I spend every day talking to founders about. And it's so true. I was speaking to someone the other day and they were laughing because they say that whenever I meet anyone, I'm like, so what do you sell? That's like my question. And it's because it tells you straight away if the person you're speaking to has really got their messaging down, and if they're able to articulate that to you. Because when you say to somebody, what do you do? 25 minutes later, you've had the whole life story, haven't you? But if you say, what do you sell? You should be able to answer that really succinctly and in a way that really helps people get a feel of what it is. And whether that's an investor that's going to invest in your business or a customer that's going to buy from you, if you can't tell them that, you're going to get really stuck, aren't you?
No, I agree. And when I before I had even my name, when I was sitting down going through the business, I was like, okay, so what are going to be the cornerstones of my business? What is true to our value? Because I think it's really important as well as not only as a human being, but also as a business to have values. So, our values, for example, are about empowerment. We want people to feel empowered by dating again. I speak to so many ladies who say, I've been on the apps, and it's just, I like people and they don't like me back, or they text me and we have a little chat and then they block me, and that's not empowering. That just makes everybody feel a little bit rubbish.
It's just a bit rude, isn't it?
Rude. It is totally rude. So, for example, we have little things in place to help especially ladies feel empowered by dating. So say, for example, we want to try and make it as we're very forward thinking in how we are as a business, but equally there's other sides of tradition that are quite nice. So say, for example, when we do a match, we present the female to the gentleman first, and we let him decide if he wants to go forward with the match. Because we know from experience that if we present a profile to a lady, and it sounds great, and we want to meet him, then the gentleman says no. As women, it's not a globe, it's a very sweeping statement. As women, we naturally think, oh my gosh, why did he not want to meet me? What is wrong with me? Whereas men are like, oh, well, never mind. We'll go on to the next one.
And there we have it. Heterosexual relationships summed up in one sentence.
I know it's a very sweeping statement. Obviously, not everybody's the same way. But what we do is we present the profile to the gentleman first. He says yes. We then present the profile to the lady, so she's in the driving seat, so she feels empowered by it. And it's also good as a woman, even if you don't want to go ahead with the match, it's good as a woman to know that actually this guy thinks I'm really hot and he wants to meet me.
Well, that was what was interesting about Bumble as an app concept, wasn't
Yes.
it? Is that they put the onus back onto the female. And obviously we're talking about straight couples, but it just is interesting that shift in dynamic.
It's really interesting, though, the Bumble model. Yes, whilst it's quite similar as one word, we have the same values. A lot of men don't like it, and especially the gentlemen who are quite alpha male. And I mean alpha male in a really healthy way. It's actually, I want to drive that conversation. And if she says no, that's okay. But actually, I want to play the male role within that. So I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Bumble was an amazing app, and I know people who have, friends who have dated and met their life partner on there, so it's an incredible app. But I do think sometimes the men, especially the very successful, actually, I want to drive this. And we also, as well, is we get the gentleman, when we do a match, to reach out to the lady first. So we give them their telephone number. They have to reach out within a set amount of time. So again, as a female, it's kind of putting it back to the more traditional way of dating, where the gentleman would chase the lady. It is about equal peer-to-peers. It's really important that I get across. It's about equal relationships. But I think there's historical things that as women just make us feel good. And that's what
it's about knowing your customer, isn't it? So if you know from experience, because obviously you've been doing this and you're getting people engaged and married and all sorts, so you know that your customers, that's working for them.
It's their values.
Then that works. Yeah. If you're Tinder and you were running Tinder, you're looking for maybe slightly different things, aren't you? So that's fine too. But it's just about knowing your customer and your business and creating a process and a way of being in an experience for them that works for them, so that it is fitting.
And, we have a really good success rate, but nothing is 100% foolproof and nothing is 100% successful. And, we work incredibly hard to find the right matches for people, but also we're dealing with people's emotions. So I've done matches where I'm like, this is an amazing match on paper. Oh my God, these people are made for each other. And if they don't get married, that's it. I'm going to go and work in Sainsbury's. And they come back to say, oh, you had a great date, but yeah, not for me.
Not bothered.
But then I've done some matches like, look, just roll with me on this one. I think it's a good match, and I've overlooked it a few times. It's not the best match in the world, but actually I think you're really going to get on together. And even if you don't want to date each other, I think you become really good friends. And I'm not sure about the chemistry, but just trust me. And they're like, yeah, okay, I trust you. And then they meet, it's like, oh my God, the chemistry is out of this world. And we had the most amazing time. The date was 7 hours. We're seeing each other again tomorrow. And it's like,
yeah. But then I guess that's the thing about every role, isn't it? A lot of it's data and planning and all of that. And a lot of it's trusting your gut and knowing when to go with your intuition and the stuff you're good at.
So we say that, a lot of matchmaking is down to intuition, which so we use MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, and we use that so we can communicate with our clients in a way that they feel comfortable. And so, for example, if somebody is ISTJ, for example, it's all very much data. So you're a good match for these reasons. So, and it's factual information. For someone, for example, like my Myers-Briggs is ENFP. So for me, like, do you know what? It just feels like it's a good match. I think you need to meet these people. So I'm like, okay, then that's cool. That works for me. So it's about being able to adapt how we communicate with our clients so that they feel really empowered by it, and we're communicating in a way that makes them feel comfortable.
But you know what's fascinating is you're telling me that, like, well, this is really obvious, Jackie. I have an understanding of what my clients need, and I have found a way to communicate for them that works for them. And I'm thinking about how I can do that at every stage of the journey. And it just happens that the Myers-Briggs framework works for you and your clients. You said that as if like, well, obviously, but that's not obvious, is it? Because a lot of founders really struggle with creating that customer experience and having that kind of communication with their customers. So I think that that is fascinating, and not something to kind of overlook how rare it is. And actually, that's probably a massive part of your success, isn't it? That you're really good at communicating with them.
We do try, but it's also about, it's about putting boundaries in place as well. So, and it's also about being firm and honest with people. It's kind of, when we're talking to people and we're doing matching, we don't match on looks. Looks are very subjective, and you can find something in anybody. It could be, a twinkle in someone's eye, you think, oh, they've got a really cute smile, or just how their body language is. And we say to people, if they say, look, I'm loving the profiles, I'm not finding them attractive. It's like, okay, but first of all, we're not an offline Bumble, so we do holistic matching. But secondly, tell me what's not quite right. And I say to people, send me pictures of people, ladies or gentlemen, you find attractive. And no, you can't send me Brad Pitt. And no,
I was going to say Brad Pitt.
No. They can't be famous people. They have to be like normal, real people who are out there in the world.
Not people that have got personal stylists and personal chefs and personal trainers.
So, and I say to them, I don't care who they are. It can be brother's best friend's girlfriend. I don't care who they are, but you can normally see then if they send you 4 or 5 pictures, a commonality. Like with women, it's for example, happened to the client with mine last week. She liked very masculine men, so very rugged, and the guys I've been sending her quite clean cut and corporate. So she's like, actually, I like someone who's it looks like they're about to nick my handbag. And I was like, okay.
That's what does it for you. You must have some great conversations in your day to day.
That's why I drink gin.
I'm just going to remind anyone that's listening, if you've got any questions for Michelle, do pop them in the comments. I just think it's so interesting to hear your growth story as well. And, that is, you were saying like a 300% growth in a year in that first kind of period is absolutely nuts. And that idea of kind of not getting lost in that magpie syndrome of like shiny object, shiny object, shiny object, and really thinking about like getting this really, really good before you add anything.
I think when I first launched the business, because it was just me and a design agency, I had no team, I did everything. I had a finance manager as well, so that was the most important thing. I can remember speaking to my business partner, and we were talking, and you just think, I need to get revenue in. I need to get revenue in. That's my most important thing. And he said, look, I remember having a conversation on the phone, so obviously we couldn't meet up. And he said, we were talking to, he said, only work with clients you can get success for. And it's true. We turned down probably about £250,000 worth of business a year, which is an eye-watering amount of money. But equally, I would rather say to somebody, we're not the right agency for you, and signpost them to the right agency than take their money, because that's not ethical.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think, when I started just before Corona hit, marketing agency. I was like, we can do anything for anyone. And guess what? We don't do that anymore. But that's how we started. And we did do everything for everyone. And I hated the work, and the team hated the work. And it was fine, and the clients were fine, and I'm sure they thought it was fine, but it wasn't particularly like setting our soul on fire. And it was when I started being a lot more like, who do we actually want to work with? What kind of people can we make the biggest difference for? And for us, that's startups. And then it's like, okay, in what areas? In these 3 things, we build brands, we build strategy, and we consult. That's it. We don't do anything else now. And suddenly, when I got brave enough to allow myself to focus on that and not be scared to turn it away if it wasn't right, that's when it started going like that. It's nuts, isn't it?
It is. And also it's, matchmakers are fundamentally people pleasers. That's all we are. We want to bring people joy and happiness. And it would literally give me sleepless nights if I had a client who I went to bed thinking, gosh, I can't match this person for whatever reason. Not saying there's anything wrong with them, because what they're looking for is quite unique or quite special, or it's not an area that we specialize in. For example, if somebody wanted, a faith match, if they want to say, for example, a Jewish partner, we're not a Jewish agency. We don't understand the complexities of that. That. So I just wouldn't be able to sleep at night, and I like sleep, and I wanted to sleep easily. And there are times when, we take clients on, and it can be a little bit bumpy at the start, but we listen and we talk and we communicate and we say, and we, when we're talking to them, we manage expectations right at the start. So, you know, we probably can't find you a golden unicorn, but we can find you quite a nice racehorse. You might be a little bit knackered and tired. No, I'm joking. But, you know, find you nice,
and now we know the other side of the joys of dating.
no, I'm being very flippant.
But
You know,
it's true, isn't it? It's knowing what you're great at
yeah.
and getting better at that
Mhm.
rather than trying to do everything for everyone.
And it's all, you know, for me, the biggest thing is about equality. You know, it's peer-to-peer relationships. There's no disparity in age, there's no disparity in lifestyles. It's about actually these are two people who are both really incredible and have these amazing lifestyles, and they want to come together and create something brilliant together. And that's what it's all about for me.
I love that. That makes me really happy to hear that. And also like happy for all your clients that are finding it. I think that's great. Kevin's asked a question. He's asked about, did you get external financing, investment or otherwise? Well, I think, Kevin, you missed the beginning where Michelle told a story about back of a fag packet conversations in the Ned with a glass of wine that got her first round of investment. But he said, what advice can you give in preparing for a raise or getting a loan or anything like that?
Is being very clear on what you're doing. So being incredibly clear. If you're wanting somebody to see the value in what you do and effectively give you cash, whether it's a bank or investor, whatever it is, it's about being really, really clear on what you want to achieve and how you're going to get there. And it's knowing exact detail at every stage, and also knowing your USP as well. You know, one of our US, you know, we have quite a few, so we have obviously MBTI that we use, but for ours, you know, you meet everybody face to face. So when we interview you, we meet you face to face, whether you're in the Highlands or whether you're in Brighton or whether you're in deepest, darkest Devon and Cornwall, we come to you and we meet you locally. So not all agencies do that. So you actually have a real person that's sat in front of you, and then you either meet your matchmaker face to face or by Zoom. All of my team, my matchmakers have company mobiles, so they can WhatsApp, because obviously if you're at home with the kids after 3 o'clock or you're in a meeting, you don't want to say, hey, it's Michelle here, I've got some feedback on your date. So we use WhatsApp quite a lot. So and they can also get, you know, reach out in the evening. So if something's gone really terrible, very rarely happens, but if something happens that's not comfortable, they can reach out to us and we normally pretty much reply.
Yeah, but again, that's the customer experience, isn't it? You're thinking, when might they need us? How's easiest for them to have that conversation?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really interesting as well, isn't it? Because a lot of founders, when they're thinking about investment or raises and things like that, you get caught up in, if somebody gave me £1 million, what would I spend it on? And you work the numbers and you figure out what equity you're going to give away, and you get very detail oriented into the commercials, which is obviously incredibly important. If I was an investor, I'd want to know somebody had a real plan for spending that money. But I think a lot of the time what's overlooked is the story and how you personally are going to show up and sell that to somebody, and how you can, because, you know, I've met people who I think are fascinating, amazing people, and then I see them pitch and I think, where's their personality gone? Just like disappeared. So, you know, for me, it would be about, you have to put all the effort and the time and the work into getting your head around the commerciality and the actual plan for the business, but you also have to learn how to sell that and sell that story so that other people buy into it, right?
I think also as well, it's like I said right at the beginning, you know, I have a very simplistic view of what we do. We find people love, that's what we do. And I didn't want to go down there, you know, it's a very complex psychology. I just wanted to use something that people would feel incredibly comfortable with, that would make them feel warm and safe and empowered, but yet was also a way of, you know, was still professional, but also was like a professional best friend talking to you. So my language of how I speak to my clients, you know, say, hey, how are you? It's an amazing match for you. Here's a link to the profile. Let's have a chat. So also the tech that we've invested in as well. I wanted to protect my clients' confidentiality. I want to protect who they are. I didn't want people to be able to go online and find them quite easily and compromise that. So, for example, all of our profiles are shared as a link, and the link expires after 7 days. And we also anonymize them as well. So if they've got a really unusual first name, say, for example, and they work in, I don't know, say they're a medic and they've got a really unusual first name, we'll just use their initial. Or if they, for example, are in politics, we just use the initial. Or if they've got a really, really unusual name that you literally put into Google and they're the only person in the whole world name, again, we would use, just initial or middle name, or sort of like, like, for example, my family nickname is Shelley. So I'd use Shelley instead of Michelle. So things like that. So it's all about protecting them and anonymizing enough so that people can make an informed decision if they want to meet them. But equally, it's not telling them everything about them that they can then go and Google them and find them online.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I remember years ago when I was a kid, I did a summer working for a recruitment agency, and my job was to anonymize CVs.
Yeah.
And it's amazing when you start doing it, when you realize how much you can find out about someone from the information, isn't it? It's mad.
So, and obviously, I think it's primarily women. They'll get a profile and start Googling away, but that's just our natural curiosity. And I always say to my clients, do not Google people, just meet them in real life and get to know. Don't look at their Facebook, don't go crawling, 3 years deep in their Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever. It's just meet them, because actually that's the person you're going to fall in love with, the person sat in front of you now, not the person they were 3 years ago.
I love that. That's the kind of the world we live in, isn't it? There's so much access that it can be really hard.
Yeah, no, it is.
Well, I'm conscious you're a very busy lady, so I've got one final question for you. So International Women's Day this year on the 8th of March is focused on embracing equity. And I think we talk a lot about equality and creating a world where everybody's equal. And I think it's really interesting that they've chosen equity. So this idea of how do we make it easier? How do we, what are the things people need to be able to get a seat at the table, to be able to become an equal? And we're talking obviously today about your business and your journey to building your business. But what do you think is the main thing that would, in the business world, if you could snap your fingers and make everything perfect, what do you think would make the business world more equitable for women?
I think it's belief. I'm 46, so having any more children, that boat has sailed a long time ago. It's kind of, you're not thinking, are they going to, if I invest in them at 25, are they going to have 3 babies and not work so hard? When I launched my first business, I launched it in 2003, fell pregnant a month later. So the launch of the business, I was heavily pregnant. I then had my son, came out of hospital, and the next day I was sat invoicing. So it doesn't mean just that because we have children that we're just going to suddenly want to be, barefoot and pregnant and wandering around making cakes. That's not for everybody.
That sounds great though, doesn't it, sometimes?
I don't know. I did it for 6 months. It wasn't for me.
You're out. Okay.
And I think it's about that. And I think it's also about recognizing the value that we bring. For example, with regards to investment, every pound I spend, I want £2 of the value from. So I'm incredibly careful about how much money I spend and how I spend, and it has to be in the right area, and it has to be the right supplier. And the supplier, the suppliers I've got from the start, I want to come and work with throughout the journey of the business. My business fundamentally is a franchisee, so a franchise prospect. So you can buy a territory and we give you global accreditation, in-house training. We will make you an amazing matchmaker. And I call my franchise team Ignite Angels, because I don't like the word franchise. And one thing I would like to do is, when I sell the business, is invest in female startups. That's what my dream is to walk away and then sort of do small investments, to, I don't know, say 50K in women who want to start their own business. So, and just do that. And then that way, by having small investments, you can then help more people. And that's kind of what my long-term goal is.
Oh, I love that for you. I think you'd be really good at that, because you're so relationship driven, aren't you? And you're good at building relationships. I reckon you're going to have a good nose for.
It's important, and it's kind of, when we're also looking at franchisees, they have to be a good fit for us as well as being a good fit for them. So it's all about, do you have the same values, our brand at the heart? Do they have the same work ethic? Is it going to be, a lot of matchmakers are single. Are they going to want to have a franchise just because they get access to loads of, really hot, rich men? Like, no, because that's a bit weird. So it's about running a business.
It's also a really hard way to go about it, isn't it, to start a business?
I know. Am I going to make loads of hot men or hot women? Okay, maybe. But, it's all about having the same values as us, and being a very value-driven business with, the values are the first thing I put. And when I laid the foundation of the business, the values were literally the first bit I did, and I start building up from there. It's important that they're throughout the whole business, across the whole board, and everybody who works with Ignite, whether they're contractors, employees, franchisees, whatever, they have either been incredibly lucky, or I've just put something weird in their drink when they're not looking, but they're all incredibly passionate about what we do, and they want to work with us and stay with us and help grow with us. And I've been very lucky so far.
I don't think that's luck. I think a lot of that is probably tone from the top, Michelle, because you are so obviously passionate about your business and about what you do and about helping your customers. I can't imagine that people could be working with you and be thinking, oh, this is a bit naff. So yeah, I think that's probably not just luck. Well, it has been such a joy to talk to you today. And just so thank you so much for giving up your time. Where can we find you? If anyone's thinking, oh, I want to be a matchmaker, I wonder if I could be a franchisee, or oh, I'm looking for love, or oh, I just want to find out more, where could they go?
So our website is www.ignitedating.co.uk. You find me on LinkedIn, Michelle Begy, really easy to find. You can slide into my DMs. I'm joking. You can message me. We have on Facebook, on Insta, and Michelle_Ignite Dating is my Insta. And so, yeah, just contact us or pick up the phone. So if you just Google Ignite Dating, we come up, or Google my name will come up, and you can find us incredibly easily. We're always open to having, if someone just wants to find out more about dating and what we do, just have a chat. We're not a hard sell in any way, shape, or form. And we can. The amount of times I've interviewed people, say in January, and they join us in I don't know, July, and they start the journey. Like, this is amazing. We should have done it earlier. When you're dating, whatever you decide to do, start it now. It's like having a baby. There's never a right time to do it. True. So whatever you're going to do, Bumble, Tinder, online apps, going to an agency, whatever you're going to do, just get on with it, because so much can change in 6 months.
It really can. Well, it's been such a joy talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. I've popped Michelle's website on the screen. So if you want to find out more about her, more about her business, and definitely follow her along on LinkedIn as well, because I know that she's sharing stuff about the journey of building her business. And if you want to find out more about me, head to inkblockcreative.co.uk. Or if you are a startup founder, you're running a business and you're thinking, I really wish I could have chats with people like this all the time and come along to events and learn some stuff and meet some cool people, then I think you need to check out Greenhouse Jersey. You can find us at greenhouse.je, and our next big event is being held here on the beautiful island of Jersey, where we're going to be talking all about marketing and sales on the 14th of October. So we'd love for you to come along to that, and pre-registration is now open. Michelle, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute joy.
And I'll see you soon for a glass of wine.
Definitely. See you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.